The cabin sat in the woods like a rotten tooth. Sarah pulled their car into the dirt driveway and cut the engine. Beside her, Marcus stared at the weathered building through the windshield. Neither of them spoke. They had barely spoken for the last 100 miles. "It's rustic," Sarah finally said. "It was cheap," Marcus replied. "That's what we wanted, right?" She didn't answer. The truth was, neither of them had wanted this trip, but their therapist had suggested it. Time away, time to reconnect, time to decide if their marriage was worth saving. The cabin was small. One room served as kitchen, living room, and dining area. A single bedroom sat in the back. No TV, no internet, just silence and each other. Marcus brought in their bags while Sarah opened the windows. The air inside was stale and thick. It smelled like old wood and something else, something sweet and rotten underneath. "When was the last time someone stayed here?" Sarah asked, wrinkling her nose. Marcus checked the rental listing on his phone, one bar of signal flickering. Reviews say 6 months ago. Before that, 2 years. That's strange. "It's remote. People want Wi-Fi now." He dropped the bags by the door. "I'll get the food." Sarah explored while he was outside. The cabin was sparse: a sagging couch, a wood stove, a table with 2 chairs. In the bedroom, a large bed with a metal frame dominated the space. The mattress looked new, which seemed odd given the condition of everything else. She noticed something else: scratches on the walls, not from animals. These were words carved into the wood, but someone had tried to sand them away. She could only make out fragments. "Don't sleep. It knows. Sorry, sorry, sorry. Find something interesting?" Marcus stood in the doorway, making her jump. "Just vandalism, I guess." She pointed to the scratched walls. He barely glanced at them. "Probably teenagers getting drunk. Come on, let's make dinner." They ate in silence. Canned soup heated on the propane stove. Bread from a gas station. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't healing. It was just empty. "Do you want to talk?" Sarah asked finally. "About what?" "About us. That's why we're here." Marcus set down his spoon. "What's there to say that we haven't already said?" "We could try—" "I'm tired, Sarah. Can we just not tonight?" She felt the familiar ache in her chest. The distance between them was only 3 feet across the table, but it felt like miles. When had he stopped looking at her? When had she stopped trying? "Fine," she whispered. Night came fast in the woods. By 8 o'clock, darkness pressed against the windows like something solid. The cabin creaked and settled. Sarah tried to read by lantern light while Marcus cleaned up. The book couldn't hold her attention. The words blurred. She felt sad, deeply, overwhelmingly sad. More than the situation warranted. A heaviness settled into her bones. "Do you feel weird?" she asked Marcus. "Weird how?" "I don't know," Heavy said. He dried a pot slowly. "We're here to figure out if we're getting divorced, Sarah. How should I feel?" The words hung in the air. Divorced. He'd said it, finally. Sarah felt tears coming. Not gentle tears. Hard, choking sobs that seemed to come from somewhere deep inside her. She couldn't stop them. Years of disappointment, of feeling unseen, of wondering when love had turned to obligation. "I'm going to bed," she managed. Marcus didn't follow right away. She lay in the dark bedroom crying into the pillow, and through her tears she could swear the walls were breathing, in and out, slow and steady. When Marcus finally came to bed, he stayed on his side. The space between them felt like an ocean. Sarah's dreams were terrible. She dreamed that Marcus was leaving her, walking away while she screamed for him to stop. She dreamed of empty rooms and locked doors. She dreamed of being invisible. She woke to find Marcus sitting up in bed, breathing hard. "What's wrong?" she asked. "Nightmare." His voice shook. "I dreamed you were drowning and I just watched. I didn't help. I didn't care." They sat in the darkness, afraid and alone. Morning should have felt better. It didn't. The sadness from the night before had settled in deeper. Sarah felt it in her stomach, her throat, her chest. Everything felt wrong. Marcus made coffee. His hands shook as he poured. "Did you hear something last night?" he asked. "Like crying?" "That was me." "No, later, it sounded like it was coming from the walls." Sarah's skin prickled. She had heard it too, she realized, in her sleep. Weeping that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. "Old houses make noise," she said, not believing it. Marcus nodded, not believing it either. They tried to hike that afternoon, get out of the cabin. But within an hour they were arguing about directions, about whose fault it was they hadn't brought water, about everything and nothing. The argument followed them back to the cabin. It grew and fed on itself. Old wounds opened. Sarah brought up his affair from 3 years ago. Marcus brought up how she'd wanted to abort their pregnancy before she miscarried. Things they'd promised in therapy never to weaponize. "I hate you!" Sarah screamed and meant it. In that moment, she meant it completely. Marcus's face went white. "I've hated you for years," he said quietly. "I just didn't know how to leave." The words broke something. Sarah felt it crack inside her chest. She ran to the bedroom and slammed the door. That's when she saw it. On the bed, lying on the pillow, was a photograph. Old and yellowed. It showed a couple, young and smiling, standing in front of this same cabin. Someone had scratched out their faces. Sarah's hands trembled as she turned it over, written on the back in shaky handwriting. "It feeds on what you feel. Don't give it anger. Don't give it pain. We didn't know until too late." The door opened. Marcus stood there, and his eyes went to the photo. "Where did that come from?" he asked. "It was just here." They stared at each other, and Sarah saw her own fear reflected in his face. A sound came from the living room, a wet sliding sound. They moved to the doorway together. The walls were sweating. Dark liquid oozed from the wood grain, dripping onto the floor, and the smell, that sweet rot Sarah had noticed when they arrived, was overpowering now. "We're leaving," Marcus said. "Now!" They grabbed their keys and ran for the door. It wouldn't open. Marcus pulled, yanked, threw his shoulder against it. Nothing. The door was sealed, as if it had never been a door at all. Just solid wood. The windows were the same. Sarah beat her fists against the glass, but it was like hitting concrete. "Help!" she screamed. "Someone help us!" But they were miles from anyone. No one could hear. Night fell, and the cabin changed. The walls breathed, in and out. The dark liquid formed patterns, faces twisted in agony. The furniture moved slightly when they weren't looking directly at it. And the sounds. God, the sounds. Weeping, screaming, voices begging for forgiveness, all coming from within the walls. "What is this place?" Sarah whispered. Marcus pulled out his phone. The signal was gone, but he still had the rental listing saved. He read it again, more carefully. "Look at the reviews," he said, voice hollow. "Really look at them." Sarah read over his shoulder. "Needed to leave early. Family emergency. Not what we expected. Couldn't stay. Something wrong with this place. Get better Wi-Fi." All the reviews were short, vague, and they all checked out after one night. "We ignored the red flags," Marcus said. "We were so focused on our problems, we didn't pay attention." A new sound started, footsteps above them, walking back and forth. But there was no second floor. Sarah grabbed Marcus's arm. "What does it want?" "The photo said it feeds on feelings, on pain." Marcus looked at her. "We brought it a feast." They understood then. The cabin had drawn them here. The isolation, the stress of their relationship. It had called to the cabin like a beacon. And now it was feeding on their misery, growing stronger. The walls pulsed. The faces in the liquid became clearer. Sarah recognized one of them, the woman from the photograph. Her mouth was open in a silent scream. "We have to stop fighting," Sarah said suddenly. "Don't you see? Every time we hurt each other, it gets stronger." "How do we stop? Our marriage is over. That's the truth." Maybe the truth doesn't have to be cruel, but it was so hard. The cabin seemed to pull the worst from them. Sarah felt rage bubbling up, blame, resentment, all the poison they'd accumulated over years of slow decay. The walls cracked. Something was coming through. A shape emerged from the wall, dark and fluid, made of all the tears and blood and pain the cabin had collected. It had no real form. It was just hunger. It moved toward them, and Sarah felt her thoughts turning black. Images filled her mind, her and Marcus destroying each other, saying the worst things they could think of, feeding the thing until it consumed them both. "No," she said aloud, "no." She grabbed Marcus's hand. He tried to pull away, but she held tight. "I don't hate you," she forced the words out. "I'm angry, I'm hurt, but I don't hate you." "Sarah, let me finish." Tears ran down her face. "We failed each other. We stopped trying. But that doesn't erase the good years. It doesn't erase the love we had." The shadow thing paused, wavered. Marcus stared at her. His own eyes were wet. "I don't hate you either," he whispered. "I'm just so tired of hurting." "Me too." I think we need to end this, our marriage. But maybe we can do it without destroying each other." Sarah nodded. The grief was real. The loss was real. But it didn't have to be weaponized. "I'm sorry," Marcus said, "for my affair, for the cruel things I said, for stopping trying. I'm sorry too, for keeping score, for the resentment, for giving up." They held each other as the shadow thing writhed. It was starving now. They were letting go of their pain instead of feeding it, instead of feeding the cabin. The walls stopped breathing. The dark liquid dried. The faces faded. "Goodbye, Marcus," Sarah said. "Goodbye, Sarah." It wasn't love, not anymore. But it was kindness. It was respect. It was two people choosing not to destroy each other, even in ending. The door clicked. They stared at it, then at each other. Marcus tried the handle. It opened easily. They walked out of the cabin together, for the last time. The sun was rising. The woods were just woods. The cabin was just a cabin. They would drive back separately. They would divorce. They would hurt. But they had refused to feed the darkness. They had chosen something better than hate. The cabin sat empty behind them, hungry, waiting for the next broken couple to arrive. But Sarah and Marcus were free.